Hi there and welcome back to the WhistlePig Workshop. Today we will be building the FF-5 Ascender. The Ascender is a folding wing catapult launch glider. So you fold the wings up, you hook a rubber band under the nose, you launch it with the rubber band, and when it gets to the top of its flight, the wings pop out and the airplane glides back down. And the Ascender is tons of fun to build and tons of fun to fly. It's not our highest performing glider. If you want something that stays up in the air a little longer, you might try one of our Catapult 3-pack planes, or our most advanced plane to date, the Catbird. But today we're building the Ascender, and it looks complicated, all kinds of moving parts, rubber bands, all kinds of stuff like that, but in fact it's actually pretty easy to put together. And so we'll just dive right in. And the very first thing that we will do, and this is of course important for anything that we have in the WhistlePig line, is to read the instructions. We assume that you really haven't built anything like this before. If you have built anything like this before, you might want to read these anyway, because there's a couple of tricks to it. But if you haven't, don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to give you all the instructions you need to successfully build and fly this airplane. So the very first thing to do is to figure out where all the pieces parts are. Make sure you understand what they all are. So when you see them named in the instructions, you know where they go and what they do. The other thing to do, of course, is to make sure you have all the tools and materials you need in order to build it. It's nice to have everything laid out and ready to go when the time comes, so that you're not fussing with things and you got glue on your fingers and you're, where the heck is the sandpaper? So the things you need to build this airplane are really pretty simple. You need glue. We're going to be using two kinds of glue here. We're going to use regular Elmer's glue. We don't recommend school glue. It's too thin and watery. But regular Elmer's glue works fine. You can also use Titebond, any kind of wood glue that dries fairly quickly. For one part of the plane, we're going to use a super glue, and that's just because it's quicker to do it on the video. Otherwise, you'd have to let it dry for a while, because it's a critical part. You want to make sure it dries overnight, or however long it takes, and we don't want to rush that in the video, so we're going to do that one part with super glue. You'll also need some masking tape, and you will need a fork or a pair of pliers. I'll leave that a mystery for now as to why you need those things. You'll need a nice metal straight edge is preferred. Wax paper to protect your work surface. A penny, this will help make the plane balance. And a wooden pencil, which as you can see is going to become our catapult stick. We've got a separate catapult stick here for that. So, we've already read the instructions, so we're going to dive right in. So the first part to do is find all the parts, make sure we know what they are. So we have the wing sheet, and they're laser cut and designed to come apart like this, so if you even bump them in the bag like we did, the parts come out. We have the center section of the wing. We have the left wing. We have the right wing. You can see how those all will go together. We have the stabilizer. This is the horizontal part of the tail. It's this part on the completed airplane. And you can see it in the picture here. Go ahead and punch that out. Put that aside. We'll be needing it in just a moment. We've got the fin, which unusually on this airplane points downwards. Most airplanes, the fin points upwards. You can see on this airplane that the fin, this is the top side of the airplane, and the fin points downwards. The fin aside, we've got the canopy. This is the right half. You see it's got a canopy marking on it, so that will go on this side of the fuselage. And we've got the other half of the canopy, which goes on the left side of the fuselage. We want to make sure we keep track of which side is which. And finally, we have a little tool we call the dihedral gauge. The dihedral is an angle that we will put in the wing, which we'll see in just a moment. And I just broke it. Well, guess what? First rule of balsa wood airplanes. They are made out of little pieces of balsa wood. They can be repaired if you bust something like that. So, we'll get started by protecting our work surface with some waxed paper. And this is really important, especially if you don't have a dedicated building area, because you don't want to get glue on the dining table or on your desk or something like that. It just prevents a lot of mess. It also keeps the parts from sticking to whatever you're fixing. So because this is a quickie fix, we're just going to put a little drop of super glue on here. Notice that this is a medium super glue. If you're looking for super glues, there are some that are very thin and watery. They glue very fast. These give you a little bit of time to make adjustments, which is really handy when you're doing that. That's one of the big advantages to the Elmer's glue, is that you have plenty of time. But you also need a bit of time for the glue to dry. Now that is actually going to dry very quickly. We'll just let that be while we move on to the next section. So we're going to take the left wing, the center section, and the right wing, like so. Make sure you can see everything I'm working on here. Move that off to the side while we make sure you can see this. And we punched them out, and you can see these little tabs. You can use sandpaper if you want to, and just knock those tabs off. If you have like even a fingernail board, if you don't have any sandpaper, you can do that. You don't have to do this. It just makes the airplane a little bit prettier. So we might as well, since we've got sandpaper handy. All right, so this is the most critical part of the whole build right here. We need to crack this down the middle. That's going to give it an up angle like that. You can see on the completed airplane that the wings have a kind of a V shape. That's called the dihedral angle, and that helps the airplane stay right side up when it's gliding. So to do that, we actually have to break the wing gently, and we will do that with the ruler. So but the first part we're going to do about that, and this is why it's important to read the instruction, we will take some of this masking tape and we will place it on the back side. And the reason we're going to do that is just in case we break it all the way. I'm trying to put this right down the middle. This will hold the pieces together and make it easier to do a fix. Okay, so now we want to put the straight edge right down the center on that marked line, like that. We want to hold it down firmly so that it can't move. I'm going to really squish it down here. And then I'm just going to put my fingers underneath here. Let it lift up a little bit so I can get my fingers under the meat. You don't want to break this point off. You want to get underneath here. So you're really lifting the whole thing, as much of it as you can at once. And we're just going to work our fingers underneath. And you can hear it start to crunch a little bit. I'm actually pushing down with my thumb here a little bit. And there you go. That's all you needed to do. We don't want to break it all the way in half, because we're going to soak this with glue, and those fibers of the wood that have just bent and not broken are going to give us a whole bunch of strength. Okay, so now we have to set the angle that we want to make the wing at the right angle. And to do that, we will, and there's a picture of this, you can see it right here. We'll take this gauge, make sure the glue's dry first so it doesn't stick to it, because we don't want this to stay on there. And we'll stick it like that. See how it fits over the edge here like this. And that sets the right angle for us. So now our wing is at the right angle. Just like that. We don't want to go in here, we want to go back here. And so we could use the Elmer's glue here and soak it in, and that's actually going to be really strong because the Elmer's glue penetrates the wood well. We're going to use the super glue just because it also works well, and it will take very little time for the super glue to set. And this is almost immediately going to be strong. We can turn it over and add a little bit to the back side, make sure it soaks into the side where the fibers got pulled apart. And now we have our center section pretty much all ready to go. Congratulations, you've done the hard part already. Pretty quick, huh? Not bad. All right, so we're gonna let this dry because even with the super glue, we want it to be a nice solid glue session. So we'll let that dry. We're done with the ruler for now. And we will do something else. Try to give you something to do while the glue is drying. And we will assemble the tail group. Now the tail group consists of the vertical fin and the horizontal tail. And we'll simply slide this with the markings up through the vertical tail. Now, sometimes this slot, because this wood comes out a little bit thicker, is a little bit too small and it doesn't want to fit. It might crack right here. Two things you can do about that. You can either just sand this down so it's a little bit thinner. That works well. It also saves weight. Or you can get in here and open this slot up just a little bit. This one fits fine, so we're just gonna go ahead and do that. Now we want to make sure that we look at the pictures. You can see that the curved side of this is facing the front of the airplane and the pointy side of the fin is facing the back, so it goes this way. And we note that the fin sticks down rather than up. Refer to the drawings, which is what we've just done. All right. And that's all you got to do for now. Now we're going to start working on the fuselage. Now this fuselage is a little bit unusual. You can see that it has a funny little cut here. This round part is where the penny will go. This one is not cut super well, but guess what? If you press on them enough, they will pop out. There we go. So we have a front half of the fuselage and we have a back half of the fuselage. And don't throw this away because we will be needing these. So since that was a little rough, I'm going to use the sandpaper to clean it up just a little bit. Make sure that pops out good. If you have an X-Acto knife or something like that, you can use it to cut out any recalcitrant parts. Again, not really necessary to not sand these off, but it looks nicer when you do that. Okay, so we have the front of the fuselage and we have the back of the fuselage. So we're going to take one canopy half. We're going to put it marking side down. We're going to match with the instructions here, so we're going to use the left half. Put that marking side down on the table. I'm going to take the nose piece and line up the slot like this. And where did my penny go? We're going to take our penny. And we want Abe to be flying, so we'll put him in this way. We're going to be putting our penny in here, and we're going to glue all these things together. Again, this is a place where Elmer's glue works, and I'm going to go ahead and use that here just to show you that it does work. We don't want to put too much, and the reason is that if you put too much, particularly the Elmer's glue, the stuff, it stays really wet in there. See how I'm smearing this out in kind of a thin film of glue? Here you can see that. I'll just put that on there. And this gives you a moment. You press down. It's already sticking pretty good. This gives you a moment to align stuff. But if you put too much glue, it'll take forever to dry, because once it's clamped in here, there's not a lot of air, which is necessary for the glue to evaporate. Okay, so we've got this part done, and now we will do our tail. Well, that part is drying. Now the tail, we have to make sure which side is up. So you can see the writing on this is right side up, so this is the top side. And our tail goes down. So we just slide the tail through the slot there. We make sure it's all centered. And then we can just slide this out. We can put a little bit of glue along the fuselage here, top and bottom. Again, we don't want too much. Just smear that out so it's a nice even coat. And we just slide this in here. Make sure that the line is in the middle. And we squeeze it together and give that a moment to get started on its drying. Like I could use a little bit more glue in the middle because that one doesn't fit super tight. This would be a place where the super glue might perform a little bit better because it kind of fills gaps a little bit, but oops, we can do this. All right. Now, if you want to, you can use a little bit of tape or paper or a clothespin or something like that to hold these things together while the glue dries. Most of the time, not really necessary. Depends on how fast the glue is going. But you can see, even with Elmer's glue, it's pretty much already dried. So now we can put this aside to dry, and we can go back to our next step. Now this is the weirdest part. This was the most challenging part. This is the weirdest part that we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out a stapler. Did I mention the stapler before? I hope I did, because that's in the instructions. And you can see right here that there are two little holes in each wing. And we're going to staple through there on the back side. So we'll just take our stapler. We'll align it with those two little holes, just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's not hard to do. And we just go just like that. Missed a little bit. No big deal. And we'll do the other one. Oops. Didn't staple hard enough. Throw away that staple. Do it again. There we go. I'm gonna do a little better that time. So if you miss the holes, it's okay. You want to be fairly close. They don't have to be perfect. Obviously, the stapler goes right on through there. So the holes are mostly to show you where to put them. All right. So this is an important part right here. We want to make sure that this center section is good and dry, and this is why we used the super glue. It's not quite dry, but I'm going to adjudge it strong enough. And we're going to take our two halves of the wing. I'm going to take our 1-inch wide masking tape, and we want to place it so that it's half on here, and you can see, I'll move this up a little bit, you can see that it's showing through a little bit. This is nice thin masking tape. It doesn't have to be fancy. In fact, cheaper the better, because thin is nice. I'm going to press that down flat. And then I'll do it on the other wing. And that's there. Now, guess what I did? I did not read my instructions fully, which means that I left out something that I need to complete this airplane, which is a pair of scissors or a hobby knife. So you will have to bear with me for a short moment, and I'll be right back. Okay, that was quick. So these are in fact listed on the instructions. It says right here, scissors or hobby knife. If you're not familiar with hobby knives, the scissors are probably your safer option if you're new to these kinds of things, but works. In fact, they work better for this. So all we're gonna do is we're just gonna trim these off so that they're aligned there. And on the front one, it'll be convenient to cut them off that way. Got sticky tape all over everything. And that's kind of all we need to do with the scissors. But we'll keep them around in case we need them later. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to take the wings and we're going to carefully place this on top of the tape. We want to make sure these are all lined up. You can see that oval is going to line up and the leading and trailing edges are going to line up. We want this to be a tight fit. That's not quite tight enough. You want to put together pretty flat. Let's get it right there. And we're going to press it down so that the tape sticks to it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And that's the hinge that folds the wings. You can see how those fold up. Now, you can see that they don't want to go this way because they hit that, but they hit the edges of the wood, but that's not very strong. So what we do is we give you these wing stops. This is a little bit fiddly to do, but we're going to punch out all 8 of these wing stops. I'm done with that now. And here's another place I'm going to use the super glue just because it's a little bit easier. We want to weigh this down so that it stays flat. Use pretty much anything for that. You can use a roll of tape, that probably works pretty good. And we're going to make a little stack of these guys right on these ovals. Like that, and we want them to meet up nice and tight like that, because that's going to keep the wing from folding the wrong way with the rubber band pulls on it. So we're going to use super glue for that. Again, you could use the Elmer's, but I want to make sure this goes quick for the video. So you want to get this first one lined up as close as you can. And there's a problem with super glue. That went a little bit before I was ready for it, but the second one will just line up with the first one. That's the most important thing, is because those 2 alignments together determine that the wing is going to fold tightly. Okay. And then we just do it again. Again, you want to get those as lined up as you can. And you want to be careful not to get too much glue in here, because you can glue them all together. We can fix that if that happens, but we don't want to do that. So you can see how this is stacked up, and these are a nice tight fit now. Got that one a little bit off angle, but it'll be all right. And we'll just repeat the process on the other side. We want to make sure that we have this one aligned here. And this one aligned here. This may be the fiddliest part. Oops. That's definitely a place where the Elmer's glue would be better, because if I had gotten that stuck there, then we'd have to peel it loose, and that would be embarrassing. I'm gonna cheat that a little bit. Again, we want to keep the wing flat so that it's in its... Oops. Don't do that. Well, I messed that up. I wasn't paying attention. Fortunately, we can rescue ourselves with a little bit of pocket knife work. Good practice lesson here. So because I kind of cut this one the wrong way, I'm just going to flip it around and use it on this side, because it's a little bit not flat on the top side. We could use the sandpaper and flatten it out. But again, It's not super critical as long as these edges meet up together. Okay, so there we go. And then before the glue totally sets, it's a good idea to, oh, here's another case for the X-Acto knife. And another place where the Elmer's glue would do better, because once these are aligned with the Elmer's glue, you could just unfold the wings and they wouldn't stick together. You thought super glue was the better thing. There we go. So we'll just get through here. Not great to get wet glue on your knife blade, but the longer we let that set, the more trouble it is. Okay, and you can see that the wings now stop up against that. All right, our wing is done. Isn't that amazing? So, next step is final assembly. We're already to final assembly. So we remember that this is up as the tail goes down. This isn't quite dry yet, but we'll be careful with it. We take the wing, and if we look at the instructions, you can see you want to slide the wing into here. Make sure it goes all the way back to the end of that slot. And we'll turn this over so that the wings kind of flop. And we want to make sure that the wing is in the center and that it's even with the wings like that. That doesn't look quite centered. We'll get a little bit further. This is a little bit fragile, so be gentle with it while you're doing this. And we want to make sure the wing isn't blocking that slot at all. That looks pretty good. And now, well, main thing is we want to make sure when we do this, now this, see how this wing is hitting this tail? That means that we're not quite right. It'll be okay, but we want to adjust this just a tiny bit so that the wings unfold. Oops, but we still want this to be in the middle. There we go. So now the wings won't catch on the tail, and that makes sure that they will unfold properly. All right. Now we take the nose and we will just slide it on here like that. And you can see how the penny fits inside like that. And I'm gonna do this with super glue, so I'm just gonna put just a little bit on here, and I gotta be careful because this will grab it. So I will start with it out here so that I can kind of zoop it into place. Apply a little pressure. The nice thing about super glue, as soon as you apply that pressure, it kicks and this thing is strong. Now we take our other canopy half and we can do basically the same thing. We'll put glue on there like that. Again, easy enough to do with Elmer's glue. Just takes a little more care with super glue, but it's certainly a lot faster. Do that, make sure all the hooks line up. Press it. What happened? Our airplane is done. Amazing. Well, okay, it's not quite done. In order to make the wings do their unfolding thing, we have to add a rubber band. And what we do is we hook the rubber band onto each end of the staple, which you can see we smashed flat. So to unsmash it flat, we can do a couple of things. One is we can use a fork. You don't have to have a pair of pliers. You can use a fork. You can use your fingernail too, but you could stab yourself, and that's not a great idea. But you can just sort of work the fork tine underneath there. You have to press into the balsa wood just a little bit. This one's pretty solid. And pick it up. That's all you need to do. You don't need to pick it up much further than that, just a little bit. And then one of the things that does come with the kit are 2 little rubber bands. You only need one, but in case you lose it or it wears out or whatever. And we just take it and stretch it across from one end of the rubber band to the other. And there we go. Pull the wings up. Wings unfold. Isn't that great? Now before we fly it, and we'll do the flying in a separate video, we need to do a couple of things. Number one is we need to check the CG. The CG is marked by this symbol with a circle that's got these marks on it. All airplanes have a CG where they need to balance and fly. And all WhistlePig airplanes are real airplanes, so they have real CGs, and it really matters where they are. The easiest way to do this, and it's hard to show because you're looking down on it, but you just put it on top of your fingers and you just balance it like that. And with the penny in the nose, this one looks like it's balancing right about there, which is on the back side. It's a little bit too far back. Now, a couple of ways to fix that. We could have waited to stick this tail on and we could sand it to take a little weight off, but we also give you a little bit of clay to put on the nose. We won't make that smooth or nice yet. And just put a dab of clay on there. Check the CG again. It's actually too much. Oops. Just about perfect. Only needed a little bit of clay, and then we can just mold the clay onto the nose so that it won't fall off. It's kind of warm in here, so this clay is kind of gummy and sticking to my fingers, but once it cools off, it'll be better. The other thing we need to do is make our launcher. Now for this rubber band, a pencil is strong enough. Obviously you're going to be pulling on this, so when we launch it, we recommend using your thumb. And to do the rubber band, you simply take the pencil. If you're familiar with a lark's head knot, this is what we're making. We just take the pencil, lie it on top of the rubber band, like so. Take the end, keeping it under the pencil, and pull it through. Shoop, there we go. And then, for pre-flighting it, we want to take it and look at it for warps. So if we look at it like this, we look at the underside of the wing and make sure that we can see the same amount of this as of this. Otherwise the airplane will turn funny. We also want to make sure that the tail is square and not twisted in any way. That looks all right. And to make it turn to the left, otherwise if we don't do this, we launch the airplane, it'll just fly straight. So we want it to turn to the left, and for this airplane it actually works best to just bend this up a little bit. You can bend it and hold it. You can breathe on it to get it a little bit warm and damp, and that will give you just a little bit of up. And you can, once you start flying it, you can adjust how much it is, but that's what we're going to need to do. Whoop. Didn't let that dry overnight like the instructions said. And then to launch it, of course, we'll fold the wings up. We'll hold it with 4 fingers. Oop. Fix my knot. Shoop. Pull that a little tighter this time. There we go. Fold the wings up. Hold it like that. Stick the nose through the hook. And we're ready to fly. Well, thank you for coming to the WhistlePig Workshop. We hope you enjoy this. We hope you learned something. We hope we made the process of building the FF-5 look like fun and not like work. And we'll be back with another video, and we'll show you how it flies. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.